And every Wednesday, Tobago Talks, that's the segment. And as I always say, when Tobago Talk, we listen. Martin George joins me on the Zoom line, the head of the Tobago Business Chamber. And we talk this morning on a topic, that I don't ever really look forward to, but we must deal with it because only when we treat with it in real time and offer solutions, hopefully the powers that be could pick up on those said solutions and we can find results. We're talking crime and crime in Tobago and its impact on the business folk across in the sister island. Let me again, as per usual, thank Martin for his time and for his counsel. I look forward to our discussion this morning. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you.
Thank you, Jason, and good morning to your viewers, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And, Jason, it is really unfortunate that we have a scenario in Tobago where we have witnessed the 7th murder for the year, and we are only in June. So the question that one asks oneself is, okay, how are these murders being committed? And when you look at it, the majority of them seem to be firearm related, and therefore it harkens back to the issue of the proliferation of illegal arms and ammunition in Tobago. And that has been part of the root of the problem of this upsurge in crime and criminality in Tobago. So, we need to be frank, we need to be honest, we need to take a look at ourselves, take a look within ourselves, Jason, and, ask the hard questions. Years ago, Jason, there used to be the talk in Tobago where they would say, well, if any major crime is committed, they would say, sure, is a Trinidadian, or somebody who came across from Trinidad. But, the reality is that Tobago is producing its own homegrown criminals, its own homegrown bandits. They are in people's homes, they are in your neighborhoods, they are in your villages, they are on your streets. And I think by and large, the people know who they are. So, it's time for Tobagonians to stop burying their heads in the sand, to still keep thinking, well, it's the influx or the effect of Trinidad or Trinidad gangs or Trinidad gangsters. Okay, yes, there may be some influence from, leading gangsters in Trinidad, but the fact of the matter is that young Tobagonians are learning quickly and they're becoming their own gangsters in their own right.
If memory serves me well, I go back to some stats some months ago. I think it was about 10 murders in 2022. Was it? That's the number. So if 7 in 6 months, it's not a good trend. It seems like it might go past whatever the record was last year. I can't recall offhand, but I think in conversations with...
Yes, I think that seems to be close to, the figure. And, the reality is that we are not tackling the source of these illegal arms and ammunitions that are coming to Tobago. I have said repeatedly, Jason, it's, ludicrous that you have a scanner for walk-on passengers coming on the ferry across to Tobago. So in other words, you board at Port of Spain, and if you are an individual with a knapsack on your back, you have to pass through a metal detector, a scanner. But yet you can drive on the same ferry with a van load of guns and there's no vehicle scanner. So, how futile is that exercise? How palpably absurd is that exercise, in the sense that you're scanning the individual, but you're not scanning the vehicles that could be carrying, dozens of illegal arms and ammunition.
So are we to assume that the Trinidad influence, even though, as you were suggesting earlier, might not be so much in terms of that, how it was back in the day, or at least what people suspected, the person leaving Trinidad to commit a crime, you're seeing that Tobago now producing homegrown criminals, but yet still the tools of their labor, the tool of evil, right, which is the firearm, the source. This could be coming from Trinidad, based on what you're suggesting here.
The source of the illegal arms and ammunition. Because the point is, we haven't heard from the police anything to suggest that, there's any major landing port in Tobago for illegal arms and ammunition from, outside of the jurisdiction of Trinidad and Tobago. You haven't heard of anything where you're saying like, either from Mexico or Guyana or Colombia or anywhere that, they are offloading arms and ammunition by the container load illegally in Tobago. So therefore, it has to be the small-time operators who basically would be bringing it across via the ferry. It's much harder to try to bring it via the aircraft. So therefore, the ferry is the easiest way. You just drive on with your vehicle. And I mean, sometimes they do a cursory search. They tell you, open your trunk. The port security gives it a once over and he says, right, okay, yes, go ahead, you're good to go. You could have the illegal firearm stored under your seat, the driver's seat, because they don't even make you come out of the vehicle. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that we are really not addressing the root cause of the problem. Then you also have the question, Jason, of, say, for instance, if you have known criminals, as some persons like to say, coming to Tobago from Trinidad to hide out, the main source of these persons coming over would be either via the ferry or the airplane. What you ought to do is have your undercover officers on the ferry with a list of these persons with their photographs. So therefore you are there, you're watching and you're looking and you say, oh, right, yes, okay, we see him here. And as soon as you land, you nab the person. I don't think we are doing enough in terms of basic police work. I mean, we of the Tobago Business Chamber, we met with ACP Collis Hazel a couple of weeks ago, and it was a very productive meeting. He laid out his plans in detail as to how he intends to make a difference and to make changes happen. And of course, we know that these plans will take some time, but we need to see a faster rate of implementation of these plans if we are to see any progress. If you are a tourism destination, Jason, safety and security is one of your #1 selling points. You look at areas like, for instance, Mobay in Jamaica. You look at Cancun in Mexico, where the governments of those countries, they strive relentlessly to try, regardless of how much crime and criminality is occurring in the country as a whole. Jamaica always wants to give you the idea that, hey, in Montego Bay, you're safe. Mexico always wants to let you feel in Cancun, you're safe. And the fact of the matter is that Tobago is just 116 square miles. It's a very small space, right? With 60,000 people, you cannot tell me that it's impossible to properly police and govern the area. What we might need to do, Jason, is do the rotation that used to occur some times ago, where you had, like, for instance, you had a batch of police officers coming up from Trinidad. So in other words, they are not connected to the community, because you have too many of the police officers in Tobago are too deeply entrenched in the community. So in other words, even the bandits, they are connected to, because either by pumpkin buying relative or, friend of a family or, some sort of connection there. And therefore you have persons who may now be covering for them. But if you have persons who are unknown, persons who come across as undercover officers and, really start to clean up the place, you are going to see a difference in Tobago. And it is essential to, go beyond the catchphrases and, the nice sounding, principles and parables. We need to see active policing in a way that is effective and in a way that ensures that persons feel safe. Even the average Trinidadian, Jason, coming to Tobago for vacation, one of the biggest things you come to Tobago for is that feeling of safety and security, where you feel, well, oh gosh, I could relax, I could let my guard down. I don't have to worry about being kidnapped or being followed home, or I could go out late at night and lime and relax, and I don't have to be looking over my shoulder. Tobagonians need to understand that that is their biggest selling point. And if they let that slip away, then we are going to end up in a situation of paradise lost.
Yeah, very important, because I recall, and I mean, I don't know, you could confirm or refute, the days of renting a car in Tobago and just leaving the key under the mat in the airport for the rental man to collect the car. I mean, is that still a reality? I mean, can I still do that today?
The thing is, I think that even that situation has changed a bit, Jason, because we have seen even car theft increasing in Tobago. Yes, we are seeing car thefts increasing in Tobago. So therefore, you know, we are really changing the landscape in a way that is not good. And, you know, as I say, part of it is that we need to basically look at the man in the mirror and ask ourselves some hard questions in Tobago. Okay, where are these criminals coming from? Where are these bandits coming from? You look at the dropout rate in schools, in the secondary schools. So when you have persons 15, 16, they come out of school with no subjects, no passes, no options, even in terms of, you know, to say, well, okay, you're doing some kind of tech voc activity. The tech voc training is very limited in Tobago. I mean, you have MIC, which does its part, but it's undersubscribed. You had the hotel school in Tobago, which they tried actually encouraging Tobagoans to come to learn the art and craft of, you know, the finer aspects of, you know, the hotel school and, you know, the training that they offered then, the culinary skills, the baking, the cooking, the, you know, all the other skills that they offered. And do you know, Jason, they could not get Tobagoans to come. They actually had to open it up for Trinidadians to come across to Tobago to take up the positions. I mean, it is a crisis we are facing, and we are not hearing enough from the THA as to what are their plans in terms of working along with the authorities, the police, the Ministry of National Security, to get a grip and a handle on this, to really take it by the scruff of its neck and pull it back.
You know, you mentioned ACP Hazel, and I know he was sent across recently. He's also, of course, from Tobago, so I'm sure this assignment is one that is a passion assignment, a man who would have served
Yes, he's very passionate about it.
Yes, served in Trinidad for many years. He was in charge of the carnival, I recall, and he did a great job in that regard. And I would have had a conversation with him on the program some weeks ago. So I trust that his particular strategy is one that can work. And I'm happy, I was going to ask you that, but I'm happy that you were able to identify that meeting. Can you probably give me 2 or 3 suggestions coming out of that meeting that you feel can be an immediate fix that will not take a lengthy or long time to roll out into real meaningful action?
Well, one of the things that he spoke about was the question of, you know, the, for instance, the beach patrol, you know, and, you know, he said that, you know, previously the way they functioned with the beach patrol and the tourism police was that they had the officers in the stations. And he said, and I mean, of course, it's quite practical. You can't have tourism police or a tourist police patrol functioning in a station. They need to be out there among the crowds, among the areas, among the hotspot areas, dealing with it among the tourism areas, ensuring that there's that presence so that persons can feel safe. So that was one of the things that he immediately identified as, you know, an area that he said, you know, he wants to deal with and tackle. You know, I mean, we've seen scenarios where in other countries you have these tourist police. They are on bicycles, they're on motorbikes, they, you know, they ride around, they, you know, they assist the public, they ensure that there's that feeling of safety and security by their visibility and their mere presence. You know, I mean, look at that video we saw the other day with the fight between the, you know, the reef store operators, you know, and you had quite a few visitors who said, well, whoa, I would be very scared in a scenario like that. But if you had a visible police had the opportunity to change things and to make a difference.
Martin, I think we need to just get your orientation in a gear. I've seen you sideways right now, Martin. Let me just.
Oh boy.
You're kind of kilkity on me there, Martin. So, but you know, funny enough, when I was in Tobago a couple months ago, I went to Pigeon Point and I saw a police officer on bicycle in short pants. I was taken aback, a TTPS officer, and he was riding around and talking to the tourists. They had lots of tourists there that day, apparently a cruise ship docked in Scarborough.
Right.
So
and
it's something I would have seen within this calendar year 2023.
Great. We need more of that, and we need it on a regular basis.
Yeah. Any closing remarks, Martin? Because again, as you mentioned, Tobago is a place where it's been known to be a safe haven. As you rightfully said, you can go, let your hair down. Well, in my case, I can't do that, but you know, you relax. A breath of fresh air. You know, right? So it's alarming to many hearing about crime and the scourge in Tobago. Yes, 7 murders for the year. It is quite alarming. I mean, most in Trinidad will say, well, 7? We got that in the first week. But it's a difference in terms of economies of scale, population, circumstances.
It's a different scenario.
Yeah.
And you
so
know,
just closing remarks.
The thing about it is that Tobago represents a little gem for all of Trinidad and Tobago. In other words, Trinidadians are so fortunate because basically you have your own little island paradise that you can run away to any weekend. You could take your family, you pack up your car, you pack up your food, your everything, you jump on the ferry, you go, you have a wonderful getaway, a wonderful vacation, and you actually feel like you're in a different country. But the point is, the underpinning and the fundamental for that is the safety and security that you feel when you get there. If that is missing or if that is lost, then I think Tobago really loses its main selling point. So this is a matter of such importance that's why I keep calling on the THA, and I would love to hear the Chief Secretary come out and speak on these issues, say what his plans are, what he intends to do about this, because without that, Tobago really will not be a major competitor in the tourism landscape.
Martin George, as always, thank you so much for the candor. Thanks for the time. Martin, the Tobago Business Chamber head, touching base with us and giving us the latest concerning crime there in Tobago. We'll touch base soon and enjoy your Corpus Christi holiday tomorrow, Martin.
Indeed. Thank you, and it's a pleasure.